Claire Meany used to be a proud heiress, living a life of luxury and never knowing fear. But after her divorce, her family went into crisis. Their company stood on the edge of bankruptcy. To save everything, she was forced to turn to one of the most powerful men in the business world. A man as cold and ruthless as the king of hell. She never expected that man to be the very same ex-lover she had once left without the slightest hesitation. When Arfad da Vinci saw her again, he simply gave a cold laugh, his eyes full of disdain. "And what makes you think I'd help a divorced woman with a child?" Facing his icy glare, Claire Meany pressed her lips together, thought for a moment, then slowly spoke. "What if the child is yours?" That one sentence turned everything upside down. Would his hatred waver in the face of such a secret? Could she win everything back? Or would she end up losing even more? A dramatic romance story filled with hatred and love, where past and present collide, leading to unexpected twists. What will happen next? If you love emotional, heartwarming stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let's dive into a tale that will stir your heart and stay with you long after the last word. Claire Meany pushed open the door to the VIP room of the Vermont bar. The room was lively, with about a dozen people inside. Most of the girls were up-and-coming celebrities and internet-famous beauties, faces that looked familiar. The men were all wealthy playboys from elite families. The only stranger was the man sitting in the center. He had one leg crossed over the other, both hands resting casually on the sofa, his head tilted slightly as if napping. Judging by the respect in everyone's demeanor, Claire guessed he was the legendary figure, the man who held the reins of the Da Vinci family, Arfad da Vinci, and also her target for the evening. Claire quickly walked over and sat down beside him. "Mr. da Vinci, hello.
I'm Claire Meany.
Forgive me for the intrusion. I have something I'd like to ask your help with." Ever since the Meany family had run into trouble, she had tried everything, approached everyone she could. The Da Vinci family was her last hope. Claire hadn't even finished her sentence when the man suddenly moved. A cold voice cut her off. "Sorry. Not interested." The voice was so familiar that she couldn't help but look directly at his profile. Sharp eyebrows, high nose, a cold, defined jawline. For a brief moment her heart skipped a beat. She froze. How could it be him? The Da Vinci family was the #1 clan in New York City. Their wealth spread across finance, real estate, entertainment, and sports. According to reliable sources, all of the Da Vinci family's power was now in the hands of Arfad da Vinci, the illegitimate son who had been found 5 years ago. Rumor had it, Mr. da Vinci was ruthless, decisive, and showed no mercy to outsiders. If the Meany family hadn't reached such a dead end, Claire would never have come looking for him. But she never, not in a million years, expected that the cold-blooded king from the rumors was her first love, the one she had once abandoned. How could this be? Still in shock, Arfad da Vinci slowly turned around. His eyes, his nose, and those thin lips, the ones she had kissed countless times. It really was him. When he saw her, a flicker of surprise flashed in Arfad's eyes, but it quickly disappeared, replaced by a cold indifference. He picked up the wine glass on the table and gave it a light swirl. Looking at her with a detached gaze, he asked slowly, "And why should I help you? What's in it for me?" This man was so unfamiliar it was frightening. At that moment, she suddenly felt regret. If she had known it would be like this, she shouldn't have broken up so decisively back then. And now, when he looked at her, his eyes were like he was looking at an enemy. Indeed, people should always leave themselves a way back, so they can still meet again someday. The story between her and Arfad da Vinci sounded rather cliché. 5 years ago, her father had forced her to marry into the faux family. She refused and had a big argument with him before moving out. One night, she was meeting someone at a bar to discuss work, when she happened to witness a group of rich kids bullying a waiter. They were forcing him to drink, even making him kneel and apologize. That waiter was Arfad da Vinci, but he didn't go by that name yet. Back then his name was Christian. He was very thin at the time, but incredibly proud. No matter how much they pressured him, he stood straight, refusing to submit. So they started beating him mercilessly. She stood there for a while, watching him get beaten until he was covered in injuries, yet still gritting his teeth, not making a sound. She didn't know why, but she couldn't just stand by anymore. "Stop it. I've recorded everything. If you don't stop, I'm calling the police." She rushed over and stood in front of Christian. Then the bar manager came running out, apologizing non-stop, and even waiving the entire bill for that group. Only then did they stop. She thought it was just a one-time encounter. But unexpectedly, when she was about to leave that night, Christian suddenly appeared beside her car. He had changed out of his waiter uniform into a simple white shirt and jeans, standing in front of her car. "Miss, you've been drinking. You can't drive. Let me take you home." And that night he took her to bed. At the time, she thought very simply. Before being forced to marry that womanizer Cameron, she wanted to enjoy herself a little, find someone she liked. Otherwise, she'd be at a loss for the rest of her life. And truthfully, her taste wasn't bad. After that night, she and Christian entered a period of passionate, endless days. He was 3 years younger than her, and hadn't even graduated college yet. Every day, besides studying and working part-time, he spent the rest of his time in bed with her. Once a young man was enlightened, he could really wear a person out. His skills, once clumsy, gradually became proficient, eventually masterful. Off the bed, he sweetly called her big sister. On the bed, he was like a hungry wolf, always wanting to devour her whole. Thinking back, those days were truly joyful, if only the ending hadn't been so bad. After 6 months together, she suddenly received a call from her family. Her father had been admitted to the ICU, and there wasn't much time left. She knew it was time to end the relationship. The Meany family had been built over generations. It couldn't collapse because of her. So she decided to be honest with Christian and break up properly. That night, she was very forward, very passionate. Christian enjoyed it, surprised by how eager she was. After everything was over, just as she was thinking about how to bring it up, he suddenly pulled out a ring and solemnly placed it on her finger. It was a plain gold ring, cheaper than anything in her jewelry box. But she had to admit it was beautifully designed. Simple, elegant, and easy to match with any outfit. She raised her hand to admire it, smiled, and asked, "What's this? Are you proposing?" "Of course not. A proposal can't be done in bed. Today's the 200th day since we met, and I wanted to give you a gift." Did she like it? She did. But what was the point of liking it? He was just a poor student. Besides being young and handsome, he had nothing. And she was the only daughter of the Meany family, its future heir. The two of them had never belonged to the same world. She stared at the ring for a long time, then finally took it off and returned it to him. Under Christian's disappointed gaze, she silently got dressed. Then she picked up her phone and transferred him a large amount of money. Before leaving, she smiled. "Kid, you've been a great service lately. Take care. Don't contact me again." At that moment, Matthew's face turned pale as paper. His pride had been mercilessly trampled. His eyes were bloodshot, his entire body trembling as he stared at her with burning hatred. It felt like he was just 1 second away from lunging at her. Now the roles had reversed. The one trembling was her, and the one indifferent was him. He had just asked, "What do I gain from helping you?" The Meany family is on the brink of bankruptcy. Even the banks are refusing to lend you money. You urgently need 70 to keep your business afloat. In all of Jiang City, the Da Vinci Group is your best shot. As for so-called benefits, you have nothing to offer. Not wanting to appear weak in front of him, she steadied herself and asked, "Then may I ask what Mr. Da Vinci wants in return? As long as it's something the Meany family can provide, we can discuss it." "The Meany family?" Arfad Da Vinci frowned, his voice icy. "Aren't you surnamed Lin? What a joke." Back when they were together, she had used a false name, Lin Han. Claire Meany was silently annoyed. "So it's fine for Mr. Da Vinci to use an alias, but no one else is allowed?" But now that she was asking for his help, she couldn't afford to act arrogant. So she forced a smile and explained, "My surname is Meany. My full name is Claire Meany. Lin is my mother's surname." "Oh, I see." He leisurely took a sip of wine. Claire waited and waited, beginning to lose patience, until he finally said slowly, "Since Miss Meany has no bargaining chips, I assume you've thought it through before coming here. Whether it's shares or any other condition, as long as it's not too outrageous, you'd agree." But she never expected him to say, "How about this, Miss Meany, spend time with me for 5 months. 1 billion per month. It's a fair trade, isn't it? 1 billion a month, not unfair." In fact, it was more than generous. Arfad Da Vinci was not only handsome with a perfect body, but also, well, he knew what he was doing in bed. In a way, she'd be gaining a lot. But most importantly, if she remembered correctly, he was already engaged. His fiancée was a wealthy heiress, and in a few months they'd be married. If that was the case, wouldn't Claire Meany become the other woman? How would she have the face to show up in the business world again? Claire was hesitating when Arfad Da Vinci stood up. "Since Miss Meany is unwilling, I won't force it. Goodbye." With that, he turned and walked away. No. If she let him go now, it would be harder than climbing to the sky to find him again later. Claire gritted her teeth and rushed after him. Outside the bar, his driver was already waiting. The car was about to start when she banged hard on the window. The window rolled down, and Arfad Da Vinci's cold eyes locked onto hers. He sneered, "What's wrong, Miss Meany? Had a change of heart? Open the door. Let me in." Moments later, the Rolls-Royce Cayman sped off into the night. But the car didn't move as fast as he did. She hadn't even settled in her seat when Arfad Da Vinci leaned over and kissed her. 5 years ago, he had been passionate, but always a little hesitant, as if afraid to hurt her while still trying to please her. Tonight he held nothing back. His kiss was fierce, devouring her like revenge. Her tongue went numb from the force, and very soon, she couldn't breathe and had to push him away lightly. But he didn't listen at all. Half an hour later, the car pulled into the Da Vinci family estate. As soon as he got out, Arfad Da Vinci carried her into the house. She had never seen him like this, so domineering, so brutal, so ruthless. The moment they entered the room, he tore her dress apart. The curtains weren't even drawn when he threw her onto the bed like an animal, biting into her with such force that tears streamed down her face. She begged him, and only then did he change positions, but he still took her completely. She didn't know how long it lasted, didn't know how many times she cried. All she knew was that before sunrise, she passed out from exhaustion. The next morning, a restless hand woke her. Her whole body ached. Eyes still closed, she instinctively grabbed his hand. "Matthew, don't." The words were barely out when he froze, and she immediately came to her senses. She had forgotten. He wasn't Matthew anymore. He was her benefactor for the next 5 months. Claire Meany took a deep breath and slowly turned over to negotiate. "Arfad, you were too rough last night. I'm still sore. Can you let me rest today?" He gave a cold laugh and said nothing, simply got up and put on his clothes. She no longer had the mood to sleep either and quickly got out of bed to follow. Downstairs, Arfad was sitting at the breakfast table. She was about to leave when he called her back. "Eat before you go." "Thank you, Arfad, but I have things to do." "Next time, okay." She hadn't gone home all night. She didn't know if Harley had looked for her. The little girl had started kindergarten, well-behaved and sensible, but they rarely spent a night apart since she was born. Just as Claire finished putting on her shoes, Arfad called her back again. Our contract officially takes effect today. Move in. Move in and live together? Claire immediately refused. That might not be convenient. I have a daughter to care for. She won't adjust well. The next second, Arfad's hand trembled. The glass of milk in his hand shattered on the ground with a crisp sound. The whole room fell silent. His eyes turned to ice, blood dripping down his hand, but he seemed to feel nothing. He stared at her and asked word by word, "You have a child?" She had imagined many scenarios for how Arfad da Vinci would find out. Maybe they'd run into each other on the street, maybe at some lavish party. She never expected it to be now. Claire Meany calmly thought it over. The elite circles in New York City were small. If he wanted to find out, she couldn't hide it. So she admitted it honestly. Yes. Her name is Neen Meany. She's my daughter with my ex-husband. She's 4 years old. Arfad stayed silent for a long time. Just when she thought he wouldn't respond and started to turn away, he let out a cold laugh. So back then, you left me just to marry another man. Claire knew she had no choice at the time. There were things she couldn't explain. But looking from his perspective, he wasn't wrong. She nodded and told him truthfully, "Yes. My family and the Vins had an engagement arranged since childhood. I was young and didn't want to get married, so I ran away. But later my family pressured me too much. I had no other choice, so I went back and got married." When she was pregnant with Harley, Claire Meany suffered from severe morning sickness. Unlike most women who only experience it during the first 3 months, hers lasted for the entire pregnancy. As a result, she lost 10 kilograms, and the baby was born weighing just over 3 kilograms. Fortunately, her pelvis was in good condition, and she was still young, so according to the doctor, she was able to give birth naturally. So even though she had been tormented all night by Arfad da Vinci, he didn't realize she had once given birth. Seeing the darkened expression on his face, she cautiously tried to reassure him. "My daughter just started kindergarten. If we suddenly change where we live, I'm afraid she won't be able to adapt. But don't worry, I will absolutely comply with the agreement. As long as I have time, I'll be available whenever you call. As for staying overnight, I can't do it too often, but once a week is manageable. Mr. Da Vinci, if there's nothing else, I'll be going now." Time was running out. She had to get home to take Harley to school. Claire Meany opened the door, intending to call a car to leave. Behind her, Arfad da Vinci's voice rang out. "Miss Claire, what are you thinking? That I would accept a woman who's divorced and has a child? That's right. What gives you the right to think that?" Even though Harley was actually his biological daughter, she had discovered her pregnancy before the wedding. First, she intended to terminate it. Neither the Vins nor the Mienis would have accepted the child. But that day at the hospital, she suddenly couldn't go through with it. So she went to negotiate with Cameron, the man she was about to marry. "Mr. Cameron, I know you don't like me, and I feel the same. Our marriage is just a way for you to more easily take over the Cameron Corporation. As long as you help me keep the child's identity a secret, I promise that after the wedding, I won't interfere in your personal life. Date whoever you want. I won't say a word. I'll also play the part of the perfect wife. Once you've firmly established yourself in the Cameron family, I'll take the initiative to divorce you and give you back your freedom." The deal was too tempting. Cameron agreed immediately. After they married, they lived separate lives. They didn't sleep in the same room, and they never interfered in each other's business. A year ago, when she saw that he had secured his footing in the Cameron family, she proactively filed for divorce. Only Claire Meany knew Harley's true identity. Not even Cameron knew who the biological father was. Now, looking at Arfad da Vinci's increasingly cold expression, she felt like he was about to change his mind. Just as she was trying to think of a way to steer the situation, her phone rang. Cameron's worried voice came through on the other end. "Claire, where are you? Harley's been hospitalized." There's nothing more terrifying to a mother than her child falling ill. Claire was no exception. In that moment, she had no mind to care about Arfad da Vinci anymore. She ended the call and immediately rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, it was rush hour. The roads were jammed, and it took her over 40 minutes to arrive. When she finally got there, Harley had just finished receiving N4 and was asleep. Sitting beside her were Cameron and their longtime nanny Auntie Cass. Seeing her arrive, Auntie Cass softly reported the situation. "Madam, after breakfast this morning, Harley suddenly started vomiting. I was just about to call you when young master arrived. Seeing how urgent it was, he brought us to the hospital right away." Auntie Cass had helped raise Harley since she was 3 months old. After the divorce, because of her dedication and Harley's affection for her, Claire invited her to leave the Cameron's household and continue staying with her and her daughter. So she was quite familiar with Cameron. Looking at her daughter's pale face in the hospital bed, Claire was filled with guilt and quickly asked, "What did the doctor say? Is it serious?" "Acute enteritis," said Auntie Cass. "They recommended keeping her for observation for a day." "Okay, I'll inform her teacher that she'll be absent." After handling everything, Cameron gestured for Claire to step outside for a private talk. Standing in the hallway, he asked her, "You didn't come home last night. Where did you go?" Claire Meany looked him in the eye and replied, "I went to see Arfad da Vinci." He immediately understood. "Claire, I already told you I'm working on your family's company issues. Don't rush. Just give me a little more time." Claire was touched. They had been married for 4 years. Even without romantic feelings, they had become good friends. She knew he truly wanted to help her, but the financial hole the Meany family was in was too big. Depending on the Cameron Corporation alone wasn't enough. Moreover, since they were already divorced, she didn't want to be too entangled and risk affecting his future relationships. "Thank you, but I've already taken care of it." Even though Arfad da Vinci's attitude earlier had been rather cold, once he gave his word, he wouldn't go back on it. Seeing how determined she was, Cameron sighed and looked at his watch. "I have a shareholders meeting this morning. I'll head out first. If anything comes up, just contact me. After all, I'm still Harley's father." "All right, thank you." After seeing Mr. Cameron off, she turned back toward the hospital room. But as soon as she turned around, she saw Arfad da Vinci standing at the corner of the hallway. She didn't know how long he had been standing there, or how much he had heard. At first, she intended to pretend she hadn't seen him, but thinking of the current relationship between the two of them, she forced herself to greet him. "Mr. da Vinci. What a coincidence." "Not a coincidence," he said coldly. "I followed you here." Then his gaze swept toward Mr. Cameron, who had just left. "That's your ex-husband, huh? Claire Meany, your taste in men is terrible." That sentence insulted both Mr. Cameron and himself. Claire smirked. "Thanks for the compliment. We're the same after all." In the 5 years since she'd last seen him, he had changed so much. He never used to speak to her in this tone. After a few seconds of silence, Arfad da Vinci looked into the hospital room and suddenly asked, "Can I go in and see your daughter for a bit?" "Absolutely not." Harley looked just like her. From her features to her expressions, she was like a mini version of Claire. But her eyes, those were exactly like Arfad da Vinci's. Claire was just about to refuse when the hospital room door opened. Auntie Cass called out, "Mom, Harley Zawake." Claire hurried inside. On the bed, the tiny girl was rubbing her eyes, arms reaching out. "Mommy, hug. Harley's awake. Are you hungry? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Claire hugged the little girl, her voice turning soft and gentle without her realizing. Harley had always been obedient and understanding, even when she was sick. The little girl shook her head. Harley doesn't feel bad anymore. Mommy, don't worry. So good. Claire couldn't help but lift her daughter's soft, tiny face and kiss her. But just after the kiss, Harley suddenly looked behind her, her big round eyes full of curiosity. Mommy, who's that uncle? Why is he staring at you? Claire turned around, and only then realized Arfad da Vinci had followed her into the hospital room. He stood still, saying nothing, just quietly watching the child. His expression was so complicated. Even Claire couldn't understand it. She introduced him to her daughter. That's a friend of Mommy's. Harley, say hi to Uncle da Vinci. The little girl immediately greeted him politely. Hello, Uncle da Vinci. You're very handsome. Claire and Auntie Cass both laughed. 4 years old, she was already this good with words. Arfad da Vinci, usually cold and aloof, felt the sharpness in his gaze slowly melt away. He said gently, Hi there. Sorry, Uncle didn't bring you a gift this time. What do you like? Next time, I'll bring something for you. No need, Uncle. I don't lack anything. Daddy already bought me lots of toys. Oh right, Mommy, where's Daddy? When I got my shot, Daddy said once I'm better he'd take me to Disneyland. Daddy's gone to work. Mommy has to work later too. Harley, be good and stay with Auntie Cass, alright? Even though she wanted to stay with her daughter, Arfad da Vinci had promised to transfer 1 billion today. She had a lot of matters to take care of. Only by handling work well could she give her daughter a better future. Harley nodded obediently. Mommy, go to work. Have fun. Uncle da Vinci, you too. Claire tucked her in, opened her favorite Baby Birds comic book, gave Auntie Cass a few instructions, and then prepared to leave. Arfad da Vinci walked out with her. He said nothing, his thoughts unreadable. It wasn't until they reached the hospital doors that he finally spoke. Heading to the office? I'll take you. No need. My driver's already here. She looked at him and asked, Mr. da Vinci, the 1 billion, will it hit the account today? Yeah. Claire exhaled in relief. Just before getting into the car, she felt that being so cold toward her benefactor seemed a bit too indifferent, so she stood on tiptoe and kissed him on the lips. In that moment, she felt like she had traveled back in time. Back then, she had always been the one taking initiative. At first, Matthew only blushed and passively accepted, but later on he completely took over, to the point she couldn't even get out of bed. After the kiss, she stepped away. Mr. da Vinci, you saw it for yourself, my daughter's sick. I won't always be available the moment you call. That kiss just now, consider it interesting. Be generous with me, all right? With that, she got into the car and left without hesitation. Through the rearview mirror, she saw Arfad da Vinci still standing there, his fingers touching his lips, a trace of emotion flickering in his eyes. Thinking about last night, a strange idea flashed through her mind. Could he still have feelings for her? But by evening, she realized she had been overthinking. That night, she attended a business banquet. Not long after she arrived, Arfad da Vinci showed up. His appearance shocked the entire venue. They both worked in the same industry, but she hadn't seen him at any events over the past few years. No wonder she hadn't recognized him as Matthew back then. He'd lived such a quiet life. She didn't expect that today he would show up voluntarily, and walking beside him was the heiress of the Edward family, Bella Edward, his fiancée. From the moment they walked in, arm in arm, their presence was poised and elegant. In the social atmosphere of the banquet, they mingled with calm confidence, glasses in hand. Even surrounded by beautiful people, they stood out as the perfect couple. Whispers filled the air. I can't believe the young master of the Da Vinci family is that young. He doesn't even look 30. He and Miss Bella are such a perfect match. What a shame. My cousin had a crush on him. Guess that's over now. Your cousin doesn't have a chance. Do you even know what kind of man Da Vinci is? Not just anyone can marry into that family. That's right. In all of Jiang City, the only family that can match the Da Vincis is the Edward family, a prestigious clan with a century of legacy. Claire Meany had drunk a little too much tonight. She was tucked away by the dessert bar, resting while eavesdropping on gossip. Suddenly, someone leaned in and whispered in her ear, "They're right. Not just anyone can dream of the Da Vinci family." Claire Meany turned around and saw Cameron, who had appeared out of nowhere. "You came too." She clearly remembered that he always hated these types of social events. "My mom forced me," he replied. "She said there'd be plenty of well-bred young ladies tonight. Told me to come and see if anyone caught my eye." It made sense. Her former mother-in-law had always been eager to have a grandchild. After all these years of hoping, now that she and Cameron were divorced, the woman was surely anxious to find a new daughter-in-law. Claire slowly scooped a bite of cheesecake and asked, "So, Mr. Cameron, did anyone catch your eye tonight?" He shook his head. "They're all boring. No one compares to you." Claire laughed. "Thanks for the compliment." If she had really been as great as he claimed, then back in the day he wouldn't have come home late every night, constantly rotating through girlfriends. Men, they always talk sweet, but compared to women, they were even more practical and calculating. After the banquet ended, Claire and Cameron exited together. The parking lot was packed, rows of luxury cars lined up. His car was parked in front of hers and he offered, "Let me drive you home. We can stop by to visit Harley too." Claire didn't like waiting, so she immediately moved to get in her car. But just then a hand suddenly grabbed her wrist. "Sorry, Miss Meany already has plans tonight." She turned her head and saw Arfad Da Vinci suddenly appear behind her. "Mr. Arfad?" Cameron looked at her, then at Arfad Da Vinci, and who knew what he was thinking? He suddenly reached out and grabbed her other hand, mimicking the move. "Mr. Arfad, maybe you're mistaken. Your fiancée is over there. Don't keep her waiting." His tone was clearly provocative, but Arfad Da Vinci didn't pay it any attention. He just stared at her, his expression dark and eyebrows furrowed. Slowly, clearly, he asked, "Claire Meany, tell me, what else can you say? In any case, you can't offend your sponsor, right?" So she shook off Cameron's hand and said firmly, "Mr. Cameron, I'm leaving now. We'll talk later if needed." Then she quickly got into Arfad Da Vinci's car. Outside the hotel, the guests were all people from the same circles. One was her ex-husband, and one was someone else's future husband. If they continued making a scene, she and the Meany family would definitely make headlines by morning. Once in the car, she immediately brought up last night. "Mr. Da Vinci, I'm busy today. I have to go home. Even a caged bird deserves some space, don't you think?" He said nothing, just sat silently staring out the window like a block of ice. After 10 minutes, she tried again. "How about you drop me off here? My car's behind us. No need to trouble yourself." Still silent. She instantly grew irritated. She could tolerate many things, but silent treatment wasn't one of them. She couldn't hold it in anymore and shouted, "Arfad Da Vinci, what the hell are you mad about?" Then she tapped the driver's shoulder. "Stop the car. I want to get out." The car kept moving. Finally, the ice block spoke, though naturally the driver only took orders from him. Seeing the tension rising, the driver quickly lowered the divider to avoid getting caught up in their storm. The car drove on and she slowly calmed down. "Come on, who do you think you are? You're just the contracted lover. What's there to be mad about when it comes to the sponsor?" So she softened her tone and tried again. "Mr. Da Vinci, if you're upset because I showed up in front of Miss Lee, I can explain. The guests tonight were all Meany family business partners. I had no idea you and she would be there too. If it bothers you, I'll be more careful next time." After saying all that in one breath, he finally turned to her slowly. The streetlights passed outside the car, casting shadows across his face. She couldn't help but stare into his eyes. Eyes exactly like Harley's. Deep black pupils, long lashes, and even when he looked at her silently, it always felt like his eyes carried 1,000 unspoken emotions. But now she couldn't read him at all. There was anger, resentment, and something even more complex that she couldn't name. The silence dragged on, long enough that the alcohol in her system began to rise. Her head felt a little light. Finally, he opened his mouth. "Claire Meany, don't you think you've owed me an explanation this whole time?" "Explain? Explain what?" She didn't understand what he was saying. "5 years ago, you threw $2 billion at me and walked away without a second thought. A year later, for $2 billion, you pretended like nothing ever happened. First meeting and you were already in my bed. Claire Meany, what exactly do you see me as? Have you ever cared about me even a little? Have you ever loved me at all? Or from beginning to end, was I just your tool? Your personal ATM?" Claire Meany stared at him in shock. So this was what had truly made him angry? Because their relationship had always been undefined. She opened her mouth to say something, but just then the car suddenly swerved. She lost her balance and fell right into Arfad da Vinci's arms. "Sorry, Before she could finish, a wave of nausea came over her. A second later, she couldn't hold it in anymore. She vomited. The pungent smell immediately filled the car. She wanted to apologize, but her head spun so much, her eyelids felt unbearably heavy. And so she fell asleep. Claire Meany slept soundly. In her dream, she was transported back in time. In a warm little apartment, she lay sprawled out on the couch, eating ice cream and watching a movie. Christian, wearing an apron, was in the kitchen cooking plum sauce pork ribs for her. The delicious smell filled the entire place. The moment the rice finished cooking, he snatched the ice cream tub from her hand and set it aside. "More cold food? Just wait, when your period comes, you'll be whining about cramps again. What's there to be afraid of? I've got you, don't I? You'll cook glutinous rice wine eggs for me, change my pads and wash my underwear. My Christian is the best. I'm too much for you, huh?" He stroked her hair, eyes full of affection, then leaned down and kissed the corner of her lips. "Mango. So sweet." "Yeah, sweet. That's why, even though she knew it was just a dream, she didn't want to wake up. But sadly, her stomach growled, forcing her to open her eyes. What she saw was the familiar black and white bedding and the master bedroom of the Da Vinci estate, the same place she'd arrived at the night before. Claire sighed and sat up. She had no idea where her clothes from last night had gone. She opened the wardrobe and randomly pulled out one of Arfad da Vinci's shirts and a pair of shorts, put them on and headed downstairs. She intended to go home and change. But to her surprise, Arfad da Vinci was still at home. He wore a black pajama set, had an apron tied around his waist, and his hair was still damp. He must have just taken a shower. For a split second, this image overlapped perfectly with the dream she just had. If this were the past, she might have felt touched. But the very next moment, the memory of her vomiting on him last night came rushing back. It was too humiliating. She didn't know where to hide her face. "Sorry about last night. I didn't mean to. I just drank too much. It's fine. Eat lunch before you go. I just finished cooking. It's almost noon anyway, time to eat." She was starving, so she didn't hold back and sat down at the table. Not only were Arfad da Vinci's clothes today just like Christian's in the past, but even the food on the table, plum sauce ribs, braised pork, tomato eggs, fish with pickled veggies, were all her absolute favorites. Wait a second, all her favorite dishes? Could it be that Arfad da Vinci cooked them himself? Just one bite and she had her answer. It was still the familiar flavor. The taste she had once loved so much. The two of them sat at opposite ends of the table, eating in silence. Claire's mind was a mess. She thought back to the questions he asked her last night and grew even more confused. What did he mean by those things? Did he still like her? Did he want to get back together? But how could that be? He had Bella Edward now, his current girlfriend, her former rival in love. She had watched her carefully last night. Young, beautiful, smart, gentle, elegant. She was perfect. An ideal match for Arfad da Vinci. And what about her? She had her company, her career, and her daughter. She was content with her life now. She just hoped the Meany family's crisis would be resolved soon. As for men, it'd be nice to have someone to care for her, to keep her company, to help ease her loneliness every now and then. But if not, it was fine. Claire Meany was a graduate of a prestigious university. She was smart, decisive, rich, and beautiful. Independent. And just fine on her own. She was only 32 this year, still young with a promising future ahead. After thinking it over for a while, she decided to play dumb and not bring up what had happened the previous night. She didn't know what kind of answer Arfad da Vinci was waiting for, and she was afraid that the more she said, the more likely she'd mess up. What if she accidentally offended her sponsor? But even though she stayed quiet, he didn't seem willing to let it go. As the meal was nearing its end, he suddenly asked, "Didn't you used to love plum sauce ribs the most? Don't like them anymore?" She froze. The plate of plum ribs was closest to her, but she had only taken one bite earlier, to see if they still tasted the same as before, then didn't touch them again. Claire Meany hurried to explain. "My taste changed a lot after I got pregnant. Ever since then I haven't liked sour food." Hearing that, he mumbled softly to himself as if lost in thought. It was true, she had changed quite a bit. After the meal, she was ready to leave, but Arfad da Vinci suddenly pulled out a suitcase. "Let's go. I'll take you home. Since you're not comfortable living here, then I'll stay at your place instead." Seeing that she was about to refuse, he calmly reminded her, "I spent $5 billion. This request isn't too much, is it?" Claire Meany gritted her teeth and forced a smile. Not too much. And just like that, in the most baffling way possible, she began living together with Arfad da Vinci. Auntie Cass was overjoyed. She had always thought it was too hard for Claire to raise Harley on her own, so having a new boyfriend now was great news. Claire didn't explain the true nature of her relationship with Arfad da Vinci. After all, in a few months, they would go their separate ways peacefully. Harley was also thrilled. There was someone new at home to play with, and even better, he was super handsome. Claire discovered that no matter what age, girls were completely defenseless against good-looking men. But there was one thing Harley didn't like. The handsome uncle always closed the door to play some secret game with her mom. She was very curious and desperately wanted to join, but every time things got important, Auntie Cass would carry her away. That night, Arfad da Vinci pulled Claire into another passionate whirlwind. Her whole body was sore from his relentless energy, tears streaming down her cheeks involuntarily. Just then, the sound of Harley crying echoed from outside the door. "Mommy, open the door! Mommy!" The little girl's sobs were heartbreaking. Claire immediately pushed Arfad da Vinci away. "Get up, Harley's crying." He didn't stop. With a calm voice he said, "It's fine. Auntie Cass will take care of it." Meanwhile, his actions continued, completely unbothered and without mercy. With no other choice, Claire used all her strength to push him off, threw on a robe, and rushed to open the door. There stood Harley, hugging her doll, little face still stained with tears, pitiful and adorable. "Sweetie, what's wrong? Come here, let Mommy hug you." "I want to sleep with you, Mommy." "No. Mommy belongs to Uncle. Go sleep with Auntie Cass." "Wah? Uncle Arfad is mean. I don't like Uncle Arfad anymore." Her cries echoed through the whole house, giving Claire a splitting headache. Seeing the two of them, one big and one small, arguing endlessly, she finally came up with a compromise. "All right, stop arguing. The three of us will sleep together. The bed's big enough anyway." After all, even though they didn't know it, The truth was, they were father and daughter. Claire Meany thought that one day, when Harley learned the truth, having a memory like this wouldn't be so bad. One peaceful night passed at last, but good times are always short-lived. The next morning, right after dropping Harley off at school, she ran into an uninvited guest. "Miss Meany, hello. I'm Bella Edward. Could we talk for a moment?" Some things, no matter how long you avoid them, eventually come knocking. A few minutes later, Claire and Bella Edward were seated in a cafe. She looked exactly as she had at the banquet, wearing the latest suit from a luxury brand, her long dyed blonde hair falling effortlessly, her makeup refined, radiant and poised. When the coffee arrived, she gently stirred the cup and smiled as she opened. "I heard Miss Meany has been divorced and has a daughter." "That's right. My daughter is very lovely. You're 32 this year, right? 3 years older than Arfad." These kinds of things can easily be looked up. There's no reason to deny it. Claire remained calm. Bella Edward continued, "Miss Meany is very capable. I've heard you single-handedly revived the Meany family. I truly admire you." "Thank you." Claire glanced at her watch, gave a faint smile. "I have a meeting soon. If you have something to say, Miss Lai, please get to the point." Seeing her cut straight to the chase, Bella Edward didn't beat around the bush either. "Unfortunately, my admiration has no value. The Da Vinci family will never accept a woman who is older than Arfad, divorced, and with a child." Claire nodded. "I know. That's why I also know a bit about you and Arfad. The reason I didn't come to find you sooner is because I understand young men. Before marriage, they like a little thrill. I can sympathize. But recently, some rumors have reached the ears of the elders, and they're extremely displeased. If Arfad continues to embarrass both families, they'll take action against Da Vinci Corporation. As his fiancé, I don't want Arfad to get into trouble. So I wanted to ask, what would it take for you to leave him? Money? Resources? Name your price. The Edward family has plenty to offer." After hearing all this, Claire suddenly understood. No wonder Arfad Da Vinci had been coming home late lately, always looking tense. Turns out the Edward family had been pressuring him, but he hadn't said a word, and she hadn't asked. After all, many matters involved trade secrets. Time had flown by. In the blink of an eye, she and Arfad Da Vinci had already been together for 4 months. In those 4 months, she hadn't just received 4 billion. She had also thoroughly enjoyed every inch of his youthful, alluring body. Thinking that, she didn't want to waste more time, and immediately laid out her condition to Bella Edward. "Add the Northern City plot, and as soon as you deliver, I'll break up with him." That evening, Arfad Da Vinci came home very early. After dinner, Auntie Cass and the driver took Harley out to play. Once he finished handling work, Arfad invited her to take a shower with him. While showering, it turned into them ending up in bed. Something was different about him tonight, eager, yet somewhat detached. And she was entirely lost in it. After all, this could very well be their last night together. Who knew if she'd ever meet someone she clicked with this well again? After the storm passed, she got up and went into the bathroom to wash her hair. While she was drying it, Arfad Da Vinci suddenly said, "I'll be moving out later." Claire Meany froze. She had been wondering how to bring it up herself, to end everything between them. She hadn't expected him to take the initiative, but that was fine too. 5 years ago, she had been the bad guy. This time, letting him be the heartless one seemed fair. "All right." She nodded. "Do you need help packing?" He had only brought a small suitcase in the beginning, but over time, his belongings had multiplied, taking up nearly a third of her closet. "No need. If it's in the way, just gather it all and throw it out." "Fine." He got up and dressed while she continued blow-drying her hair. Before he stepped out, he suddenly asked, "You don't have anything you want to say to me?" "Say what?" What was he expecting? After thinking for a moment, she smiled. Congratulations on your engagement, Mr. Da Vinci. If we meet again in business, I hope you'll go easy on me. That clearly wasn't what he wanted to hear, because as soon as the words left her mouth, his face darkened. He stared at her for a long moment, then clenched his teeth and said coldly, Claire Meany, you've always been heartless. With that, Arfad Da Vinci slammed the door and left decisively. The loud sound of the door closing made it clear how furious he was. Meanwhile, she put down the hairdryer and sent a message to Bella Edward. I've done what we agreed on. Don't forget your promise. After Arfad Da Vinci left, her life returned to normal. The Meany family's crisis had been resolved, and at last, she could breathe a sigh of relief. Auntie Cass seemed a little regretful. She had always felt that Claire and Harley were struggling on their own, and now that they finally had someone by their side, it ended so quickly. But she was always discreet and never asked too much. Only Harley wasn't like that. Though smart, she was still just 4 years old. Every day, she clung to Claire, asking, Mommy, why isn't Uncle Arfad living with us anymore? Was it because I took Mommy away from him, and now he's sad? Mommy, can you tell him? If he makes plum sauce ribs and Coca-Cola chicken wings for me every day, I'll let him have you. Claire didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She rubbed the little girl's round belly. Still thinking about food? The doctor said you need to lose weight. I don't have to eat every day. A few times a week is fine. Mommy, where did Uncle Arfad go? I miss him. He said he'd take me to see sharks in the ocean. Children always knew clearly who treated them well and who didn't. Over the past few months, Arfad Da Vinci had spoiled the little girl endlessly. Not only had he bought her countless toys and clothes, but whenever he had free time, he took her out to play. There were times when Harley would throw a tantrum and refuse to walk. Arfad would carry her for half a day, even more patiently than Claire. Thinking of that, she hugged the child and asked softly, Harley, do you like Daddy or Uncle Arfad more? I like them both. Turning around, she saw at the far end of the flower-covered lawn, Arfad Da Vinci in a sleek black suit standing next to Bella Edward in a pristine white wedding dress. Together, they were waiting for the moment to walk down the aisle. Moments later, the MC began the ceremony. Under the warm applause of the guests, the bride and groom slowly made their way toward the stage. Once they were both on the ceremonial platform, the proceedings began. Since the main wedding ceremony would take place in the ballroom, the outdoor event was simpler. With everyone watching expectantly, the MC raised the traditional question. Mr. Arfad Da Vinci, do you take Miss Bella Edward as your lawful wife, to cherish her, respect her, and love her forever? I do not. I do not. Two voices rang out at the same time in the midst of the solemn setting. One belonged to Arfad Da Vinci. The other was Claire Meany. In that instant, every guest was stunned and turned to look. Claire had stood up, holding Harley's hand, about to step onto the stage, only to have Cameron grab her arm, his face dark with anger. Holding back his fury, he lowered his voice and tried to reason with her. Claire, don't make a scene. He quickly turned to the crowd and offered an explanation. Sorry, everyone. She's just joking. Claire shook her head and pulled her hand free. I'm not joking. After thinking it over, she decided some things were better made clear sooner rather than later. Mr. Edward, I'm sorry. I don't like you. This crisis with the Meany family, let's be honest, the Faux family played a part in it, didn't they? Your mother blamed me for the divorce and for changing Harley's surname. So she colluded with others to retaliate. You knew exactly what she did, but you chose to turn a blind eye. Because you were hoping I'd be forced into desperation, so I'd come to you for help. That way you'd get what you wanted. Sorry, but you're going to be disappointed. She had only learned the truth 2 days ago. At first she hadn't planned to expose it, but since he had just confessed his feelings, she figured he deserved a clear answer. Cameron might be flirtatious and indecisive, but at his core, he wasn't a bad person. Still, not liking someone meant not liking them. They'd lived together for 4 years, and she never loved him, and she never would. After finishing, she took Harley by the hand and walked straight to the stage under hundreds of stunned gazes. The MC looked utterly panicked, sweat covering his forehead as he frantically wiped his face. Bella Edward was still smiling, but that smile was twisted and difficult to look at. Claire ignored her and walked directly to Arfad da Vinci. Under his astonished gaze, she calmly opened her mouth. I know you broke up with me because you were worried about the Meany family. You were afraid the Edward and da Vinci families would make things difficult for me. But don't worry. I've already found the mole inside the company. Those who took our kindness for granted, they've all been thrown out. Last year I was still too young. Besides breaking up with him and marrying into the faux family, I had no other choice. But now I am no longer the same Claire Meany from back then. Taking a deep breath, Claire looked straight into his eyes and said, Arfad da Vinci, I like you. I really like you. Can you not marry her? As she spoke, she stepped closer and leaned in to whisper a secret into his ear, one far more shocking than her confession. And one more thing. Harley is your biological daughter. You're her father. Arfad da Vinci staggered, completely shaken. He looked at her, then at Harley, his eyes filled with disbelief. A long time passed before he could even speak. Claire Meany, what did you just say? Say that again. But she had no time to repeat it. Security was already rushing onto the stage, and the Edward family, furious, were preparing to stop her. Claire quickly picked up Harley and slipped away through the chaotic crowd. This mess. I'll leave it to you to handle, Arfad, she thought. She believed he could manage it, just like she believed he wouldn't really marry Bella Edward. That's why she had brought Harley here, to crash the groom's wedding. Thank God she had come. Only then could she personally hear the words, I don't agree, come out of his mouth. That was enough. If Arfad da Vinci had already walked 99 steps toward her, then the final step, she would take it toward him. Claire Meany was still young, she could take it. And just as she had predicted, he didn't disappoint her. After the wedding was called off, a fierce conflict erupted between the da Vinci and Edward families. They fought over every project, clashing like mortal enemies. Some families in New York watched from the sidelines, others took advantage of the chaos. And Claire? She didn't do anything. Quietly, she transferred $4 billion in cash and a parcel of land in the northern part of the city, originally acquired for me, to Arfad da Vinci. Claire Meany. First, a lover of money. Second, a lover of handsome men. If Bella Edward was foolish enough to bring the goods to her doorstep, wouldn't she be an idiot not to take them? The war between the two families dragged on for half a year, until Arfad da Vinci had fully taken control. Only then did he appear again in front of Claire and Harley. Winter had arrived in New York. That day was Christmas. Claire was out shopping with Harley when they ran into him by chance. Uncle Arfad. Harley squealed with delight and threw herself into his arms. Claire walked up and gently corrected her. That's wrong, sweetie. You should call him Dad. Arfad da Vinci stroked the little girl's head and smiled. What's the rush? Let her get used to it slowly. We've got all the time in the world. Yes, Claire smiled back. We have all the time in the world. She had once loved a man deeply during the most beautiful years of her life, only to be forced by circumstances to let him go. But thankfully, through all the twists and turns of fate, the two of them met again. For months ago, even though Arfad always acted cold on the outside, every action of his quietly expressed how he felt. Claire wasn't a fool, so this time she didn't want to let go. That night, Arfad da Vinci moved back into her house once more. When he opened the wardrobe, he froze. You didn't throw away my stuff? Claire raised an eyebrow. Why would I? He chuckled, clearly pleased. After showering, he suddenly remembered something. You knew all along that I wouldn't marry Bella Edward. You were just pretending to cooperate with her, right? That night when you told me congratulations on your wedding, that was just to piss me off, wasn't it? It had been so long. Amazing he still remembered. If he hadn't brought it up, she might have forgotten it herself. She shook her head. Not exactly. Back then, I wasn't sure if I could handle everything with the Meany family. I didn't know if I could win you back. So I meant it. I genuinely wished you happiness. She only knew one thing. That he had loved her. From the past until now, he had always loved her. So no matter how hard the road ahead might be, she wanted to try again. As for the outcome, how could she know? Hearing all this, Arfad da Vinci became furious. He pulled her into his arms and bit her lip hard. Claire Meany, you really have no heart. You knew I loved you, and yet you kept saying things that hurt me. How strange. Why had she ever thought he was mature? Clearly, he was still just a petty, sulking boy. Alright, I was wrong, okay? Be good now, little brother. Spare your big sister, will you? That single little brother instantly pulled the two of them back to the sweet days of their past. For a moment, Arfad da Vinci's gaze darkened. Well then, he murmured. Let's see how big sister performs tonight. Fine. After months of waging battles, this big sister was starving. Memories returned, and the entire night bloomed with springtime passion. Much later, she drifted into sleep in Arfad da Vinci's arms. As she closed her eyes, she dreamt an old dream once more. In the dream, the young Christian of her past held her gently, whispering by her ear, "Sis, I love you." Back then she didn't respond. But tomorrow, when the sunlight slipped across the pillow and she opened her eyes, she would kiss him and tell him, "I love you too. So much. So much." Dear listeners, today's emotional love story comes to a close. If it touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel to support our team in bringing more tender, unforgettable stories to life. Wishing you endless joy, gentle days, and a heart always filled with love. Until we meet again in the next story, take care and stay inspired.